Welcome to Roger That Podcast. Our hosts for today are Brittany and Kiani. And today we have an opportunity to interview Mr. Ridenhour, who is the Chief of Police in Danbury. Welcome, Mr. Ridenhour.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to talk with us today. We really appreciate you joining us.
I appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome. We're going to start with background and professional questions. How can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Waterbury, which is about 30 miles east of Danbury. Was educated in the local schools in Waterbury. I became a police officer at the age of 21 in Waterbury. I did 20 years there. I rose through the ranks. I started as a patrol officer, and when I left there, I was the assistant chief. When I left Waterbury, I went to the town of Stratford, but only after I worked in the Waterbury school system for a year. Then I went to the town of Stratford. I was the deputy chief there for about a year and a half, and then I was chief for 5.5 years. And then Danbury, the great city of Danbury, gave me this opportunity to come here, and I've been here since July of 2016.
Do you like it? Do you like it in Danbury better or Waterbury better?
Each city and each department is different, so I think there's pros and cons to everything, so I would never compare those experiences. I mean, one of the things I will say about Waterbury is I grew up there, so having an opportunity to serve in the city that I grew up in was very rewarding and something that I will cherish for my entire life. But I do enjoy being the chief here in Danbury. I never got the opportunity to be the chief in Waterbury, so I can't compare those experiences, but I do really appreciate this opportunity that I had to come to Danbury, and the city has embraced me. I think I've embraced this community, and I really love it here.
That's nice. Why did you choose to be a police officer?
Always had a desire to help people. To be perfectly honest, my father had served as a police officer in Waterbury. He was a detective. And then he got injured, and so he had to leave the job, and then he was an investigator for the state. And then my mother was a school teacher for 35 years, so I think public service was always in my family background.
That's nice.
What kind of training do police officers have to do to become an officer?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What kind of training do police officers have to do to become an officer?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get through the background process in order to be considered for training. So once you apply for a job, we give you a conditional offer, and then we do a thorough background check on you. We want to know the type of life that you lived. You have to take a polygraph exam. You have to take a psychological exam. We want to make sure that you're fit in order to become a police officer. And then if you clear all of those hurdles, then we send you to the police academy. And the academy is a combination. It's like going to college. It's almost like going to college and also going through basic training in the military at the same time. You have to take a lot of classes like you would in college, learn about the law, you learn about different procedures, interpersonal relations, but then you also have to go through a lot of physical training as well. So it's a combination of both. And then when you get out of the academy, you have to do field training at the department where you're hired.
How long have you been a police officer? And have you been a police officer anywhere else?
Total now is 36 years. And yes, I was police officer in Waterbury, I was police officer in Stratford, and now here in Danbury.
That's nice.
Can you tell us a little about what it means to be the chief of police in Danbury?
Well, you think about it from a school standpoint, you think about your principal. Your principal is in charge of the building, he's in charge of all of the teachers, and really is in charge of what's going on within the school. Your superintendent of schools is in charge of all of the schools. Well, that's kind of what the police chief does. The police chief is the chief executive officer of the police department. So ultimately, I'm responsible for everything our officers do out there in the community. So it's my responsibility to not only make sure that they're doing their jobs, but also to give them the resources and the support that they need to do their jobs properly.
When did you become the chief of police, and what steps did it take you to get there?
Okay. I became chief of police here in Danbury in 2016, in July of 2016. And it was after meeting the minimum qualifications where I had to have a college degree, which I do, have a master's degree, and then certain number of years of experience as a commanding officer. And then they put us through what we call an assessment center examination here, where they put us through different scenarios and seeing how that we handle those scenarios, and then they score them. And fortunately, I made it through that process and got the opportunity to come here to Danbury.
Is it challenging or difficult to manage all of the police officers?
At times it is, but a lot of times it's just fun, you know, seeing the different personalities that we have. We try to have a light atmosphere, a fun atmosphere at the police department as much as possible. The different personalities, I think, what makes the department great, but I also think that's what makes the city great, and having officers with different backgrounds and different points of view really helps me determine the best way to serve our citizens, because I get a variety of perspectives.
How does someone become a police officer?
Well, first thing, in the state of Connecticut, not just Danbury, you have to be at least 21 years of age in order to become a police officer. You have to pass a test. You have to pass a thorough background check, which would include an interview, a polygraph examination, a physical examination, a medical examination. We go out, we interview people that you've worked for before to get references. We go to your house, we meet your neighbors to find out what kind of person you are. We check your driving history, we check your credit history. We do everything we possibly can to make sure that we're putting someone out on the street who is going to do the best service for the community. And so that's really, it's a very extensive process.
What is a police officer's schedule like, and do police officers take break days?
Of course, they get days off just like everyone else. They work 5 days on and 3 days off, or 5 days on and 2 days off. They take regular days off. They do get the opportunity to work overtime. They get the opportunity to work what we call private duty jobs. That's when you see an officer out at a traffic scene or construction, and they make some extra money that way, which is very helpful for them to be able to take care of their families. So it's like it, but it's like any other job in the sense that you work, you get some time off to recharge, and you come back to work after that.
What is the biggest challenge of being a police officer?
The biggest challenge of being a police officer, I would say, throughout my years and years and years of experience, is just changing with the times. That there no 2 days are the same. Sometimes we're going to see and experience things that are very traumatizing, and trying to cope with that and get the resources, the help that we need to get through those situations, but also just the changing views of policing. Sometimes, people are very supportive of the police, and then there's other times, because of incidents that happen around the world, where people aren't as supportive of the police, or they speak negatively. And just understanding that our responsibility is to just go out there and do our jobs the best that we can, listen to the people that we serve, and try to help them as much as we can.
How many police officers are in Danbury?
Right now we have 157 officers in Danbury. We're trying to get up to 170. So if you know anyone, we'll be hiring soon. So if you know anyone, please send them our way, because most importantly, we really like to hire people from the Danbury community whenever possible.
How do police officers keep Danbury safe?
One day at a time. One day at a time, 1 minute at a time. We do our best to keep people safe by being proactive in how we patrol our neighborhoods, but it's a partnership that we have to have with our communities, with all of our communities, where people work with us, give us the information that we need so that we can get the bad people off the street so that the good people can enjoy their neighborhoods and enjoy time out.
Have you ever been in a dangerous situation, and how did you handle it?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Yes, I've been in a few dangerous situations. The main thing is trying to not to panic. I've been in situations where people have had weapons, and one wrong move or not being recognizing your surroundings, I may not be here. And so it's really just recognizing the dangers and keeping calm, keeping cool, and figuring out what your best options are to get yourself and others out of harm's way and to take care of the situation.
How do police officers keep our schools safe?
Well, you have a very good school resource officer here. Well, I hope. That's one of the ways we keep our students safe is having school resource officers. Here in Danbury, we're fortunate enough to have one at each one of the middle schools as well as 2 at the high schools. And, it's not only their presence in the school that helps keep students safe, but it's building the relationships with students where you feel comfortable talking to them in case there's some concerns about whether it's another student or something that's going on at home or something that's going on in the community. So that's why we're very intentional as to who we pick to work in the schools. We work with the principals of each of the schools. They are part of the selection process for school resource officers because we feel it's one of the most important positions that we have within the department.
What is the most rewarding part of your job?
Stuff like this. Being perfectly honest, being able to get out into the community and talk with people within the community, particularly talking with our youth and getting an opportunity to promote our department and the things that we do for the community and working with the community to make Danbury one of the safest big cities around.
Now we're moving on to the middle school questions. What was middle school like for you, and what are your favorite middle school memories?
Well, I went to a first grade through eighth grade school, so I didn't really go to a middle school. But those years, I have very good memories. And funny thing that you mentioned that, I just got a text message yesterday from someone that I had gone to middle school with because she's trying to put together a little bit of a reunion, and we're talking a long time ago, and it was really good to hear from her, and I said to her, oh yeah, I'm all in. I really would love to see a lot of the people that I went to school with during those years, and so we're looking forward to it probably sometime either next month or in April. But middle school was fun. I played baseball. I was pretty good at it, and I was a pretty good student as well. And I think probably my most fond memory of middle school is winning the statewide spelling bee. So, it was quite an accomplishment, and it's very exciting and a really good feather in the cap for our school.
That's nice.
When you were in middle school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I think I always wanted to be a police officer. I never wanted to, I don't know what you all play today, but we used to play a lot of cops and robbers when I was a kid, and I never wanted to be the robber. I always wanted to be the cop. So I think, deep down subliminally that I just knew that I wanted to be a police officer.
What advice would you give to middle school students today?
Pay close attention. Learn your lessons. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Um, and just, remember that, and be a kid. Enjoy life, that because it passes you by pretty quickly. The next thing you know, you're my age, and you're sitting here with gray beards and just reflecting on things that you've done, things maybe that you could have done differently. So enjoy life, each stage of your life, but never be afraid to reach out for help. But while you're in school, pay attention to your lessons and do the best that you can all the time.
Now we're going to move on to some fun questions. What hobbies or activities do you enjoy outside of being a police officer?
Well, as you get older and you get a little more sore, you can't play as much as you used to. But I do still like to bowl. Every now and then, if I get a chance, I like to golf. I like watching movies that are just entertaining. I'm not really big on dramas or anything like that. Just with the nature of the job, I just like to watch things that make me laugh.
Who has been the most influential person in your life and why?
Who? I think overall it has to be my mom, because she's been there my entire life, from the time I was born and still to this day. And the way she was a school teacher for 35 years, and then even after she retired, that she was heavily involved with volunteering activities throughout the community. She's much older now, so she's taking care of herself, but sometimes it's not really just things that she said to me, but just the way that she carried herself and being comfortable interacting with all walks of life. So I think the example that she said was probably the most influential for me. But going through my career, I've had different mentors to help me get to where I am professionally. I had a gentleman in Waterbury who's since passed away. His name was Sam Beeman. He was a retired, he retired as a lieutenant in Waterbury, but he was also a Marine combat veteran from Vietnam. And the way that he just took me under his wing, and when I joined the department, and helped me get ready for promotional exams, and just taught me about life. So I think as you go through different stages of your career, that you get different mentors, and so those are two people that really stand out. My dad was very influential. My grandparents, who I spent a lot of time with, they were very influential, just keeping me grounded, never letting me forget where I came from, and I think that's part of my style now, that I kind of try to lead with compassion and understanding, and I think a lot of that just came from my upbringing and the people that I surrounded myself with.
What was your favorite place to visit in Danbury, and why do you love it?
Wow, that's a really good question. My favorite place to visit in Danbury. I'll have to think about that one. I've been to a lot of places in Danbury. I think Danbury just has a lot of beautiful places. Terrywell Park, the Terrywell Mansion, which is where I had my wedding reception a few years ago. I think Rogers Park is beautiful. I think I visit City Hall a lot, just because I go over there a lot for business purposes. I think our Danbury Police Department is probably one of the nicest looking departments around the state. A lot of good restaurants here in Danbury. So I don't know if I have a favorite. I just think that I just think there's a lot of good places for different reasons here in Danbury. Even our mall is I think one of the better malls in the state and in the region. So, and I like going there a lot too.
We're gonna start with some this or that questions.
Do you prefer Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks?
Oh, Dunkin'. Got my app.
Weekends or weekdays?
Huh. Weekends.
Are you a morning or night person?
Both.
Chick-fil-A or McDonald's?
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
Okay, and finally, what advice would you give to a middle schooler who might want to be a police officer in the future?
Kind of the same advice that I would give a middle schooler, period. Just learn your lessons. Don't hesitate to reach out for help. Stay focused. And do your best to surround yourself with positive influences so that you stay out of trouble and so bad things don't follow you. And then whether you want to be a police officer, a firefighter, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you want to be, you'll have that opportunity.
That concludes our discussion with Mr. Ridenhour. We truly appreciate you spending time with us today to tell us a little bit about yourself and profession. Thank you for tuning into another great episode of Rogers That. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.